The seventh cab slowed down, saw the old man standing at the curb, and kept going. It did not pull over. It did not stop. The driver looked through the windshield, made the calculation in the half-second that these calculations take, and rejoined traffic on Wilshire Boulevard as if the man at the curb were part of the scenery. A lampist, a mailbox, something permanent and ignorable. The old man lowered his arm. He had been on that curb for 31 minutes. He was wearing a brown wool coat, slightly large for him now, with a small Veterans of Foreign Wars pin on the lapel. He had a rolling suitcase, the compact kind, navy blue with a gold zipper, the kind that fits in an overhead bin. His shoes were clean. His hair was combed. He was 79 years old, and he was trying to get to Union Station, and the seventh cab had just decided, without stopping to ask, that he was not worth the fare. The man standing outside the coffee shop 20 feet away had been watching since cab number 4. He set down his cup. Wilshire Boulevard between Koreatown and Westlake runs through one of the most compressed miles of economic contrast in the city of Los Angeles. Within 4 blocks of each other, you will find a restaurant where the tasting menu is $195 per person, and a check-cashing storefront with a hand-painted sign in 3 languages, and a lunch counter that has been serving the same hot plate for $6.50 since 2003. The coffee shop where the man with the cup had been sitting occupied the ground floor of a building that had been, in sequence, a dry cleaner, a dental office, a payday loan company, and a record store, and was now a coffee shop with exposed brick and reclaimed wood shelving and a menu board written in chalk. The curb in front of the coffee shop had a yellow cab zone marker. This is relevant because it meant the old man was exactly where he was supposed to be. He was not standing mid-block or near a driveway, or in a position that could be attributed to confusion. He was a 79-year-old man in a brown wool coat standing in a cab zone on a Sunday afternoon, his rolling suitcase beside him, his arm raised with the patience of someone who had been patient for a long time. The first cab that passed was occupied. That was legitimate. The second slowed, saw him, and accelerated. The third did not slow at all. The fourth pulled to the curb 20 feet ahead, waited for a woman in her 30s with a tote bag to get in, and pulled away while the old man's arm was still raised. The fifth passed without acknowledgement. The sixth. This one made the man outside the coffee shop stand up from his table. The sixth actually stopped. The old man walked toward it, and the driver looked at him through the window and pulled away before he could reach the door. The old man stood in the space the cab had vacated. He did not say anything. He turned back to the curb and raised his arm again. The man outside the coffee shop was already moving. His name was Walter Briggs. He was 79 years old, and he had been born in Shreveport, Louisiana, the second of 6 children, in a house on the east side of town that his father had built with his own hands over the course of 3 summers, working weekends and evenings around a full-time job at the paper mill. The house was 1,100 square feet. It had a porch. Walter's father had been proud of that porch, not extravagantly, not in the way that required an audience, but in the steady, private way that a man is proud of something he made with his body that will outlast him. Walter had enlisted at 18 in 1963, before the thing he was enlisting for had a name most Americans recognized. He came home in 1966 with his hearing partially compromised in his left ear, a tattoo on his right forearm he had stopped explaining, and a specific and unshakable capacity for silence that the people who loved him had learned to read as a form of speech. He had married a woman named Evelyn in 1968. He had worked for the United States Postal Service for 34 years, retiring in 1999. He and Evelyn had 3 children, 7 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild who had been born in February and whose photographs Walter kept in a small paper sleeve in the breast pocket of every coat he owned. Evelyn had died 14 months ago. Walter had moved to Los Angeles 6 months after, to be near his youngest daughter, Patricia, who lived in Pasadena. The move had been Patricia's suggestion and Walter's reluctant agreement, and it had taken him 3 months to stop waking up in the apartment on Clement Street and believing, in the first half-second of consciousness, that he was still in the house in Sacramento where he and Evelyn had lived for 27 years. He was managing. This was the word he used when Patricia asked. "I'm managing." He meant it as something stronger than it sounded, but he did not know how to say the stronger thing, which was that managing, showing up, getting dressed, keeping his shoes clean, riding the bus to the farmer's market on Saturdays, learning the routes, was an act of will that he performed each morning before breakfast, and that he was proud of it in the same private way his father had been proud of the porch. He had a doctor's appointment that afternoon at a clinic near Union Station. Patricia had offered to drive him. He had told her he was fine, that he could manage, that she had enough to manage herself. He had looked up the cab number. He had the address written on a folded piece of paper in his breast pocket, next to the photographs. The 7th cab had just passed. He was lowering his arm when he heard, "Sir." Keanu had his hand up before he finished saying the word. He positioned himself at the curb directly beside Walter Briggs, not in front of him, not between him and the traffic, but beside him, as if they had always been waiting together. The next cab came 2 minutes later. It slowed. It stopped. Walter watched it stop. He watched the way an old man watches something that has been refusing to happen finally happen, with a stillness that is not surprise exactly, but is close to it. Keanu opened the rear door. "After you," he said. Walter looked at him. The recognition came slowly, and then settled. "You don't need to do this," Walter said. "I know," Keanu said. "Where are you headed?" "Union Station," Walter said. "But that's out of your—" "I'm going downtown," Keanu said. "I'll drop you on the way." This was not true. His car was parked around the corner on Vermont Avenue, and downtown was not his direction, and Union Station was 23 minutes without traffic on a Sunday afternoon. He said it the way you say a thing that you want to be practically true, even when it is not literally true. And Walter Briggs, who had been married for 43 years and had raised 3 children, and had spent 34 years reading people through mail slots and screen doors and the specific angle of a porch light at 6 a.m., understood this immediately. He got in. Keanu got in after him. He gave the address to the driver. The cab merged into traffic. They did not talk for the first few minutes. Walter looked at the city moving past the window. Keanu sat with his hands in the pockets of his gray hoodie and did not perform conversation. This was the right instinct, and Walter registered it the way you register the right instinct in another person, not consciously, but as a shift in the quality of the silence. It was Walter who spoke first. 31 minutes, he said. "I know," Keanu said. "I was watching from the 4th one." "The 4th one stopped," Walter said. "There was no heat in it. It was an observation." "Yeah," Keanu said. "That was the one that—" He stopped. "That was the one that made you stand up," Walter said. "Yes," Walter nodded. "I used to be a letter carrier," he said. 34 years. You learn to tell when someone looks at you and decides." He paused. "Most of the time it's not even about you. It's about how tired they are, or what kind of morning they had. But sometimes," he paused again, "sometimes it is about you. And after a while you can tell the difference." Keanu was quiet. "Which was this?" he said. Walter looked at him. "The fourth one," he said. "The one that stopped and then pulled away?" That one knew exactly what it was doing. The cab moved through the light at Vermont. Outside, a woman was pushing a stroller and talking on her phone. Two teenagers sat on a wall, eating chips from a shared bag. "How long have you been in L.A.?" Keanu asked. 8 months, Walter said. "I moved to be near my daughter." "You like it?" Walter considered this honestly. "I'm learning it," he said. "It takes time to learn a city. I was in Sacramento for 27 years. You get so you know the rhythms. Here," he looked out the window, "here the rhythms are different. More of them. Louder. Does that bother you?" "Some days," Walter said. "Some days it doesn't. My wife would have liked it, I think. She liked noise. Said it meant things were happening." He said this without particular grief, the way you say something about a person you have had a long time to learn to hold. "She died 14 months ago." "I'm sorry," Keanu said. "Thank you," Walter said. They rode for a moment in the kind of quiet that has been agreed upon rather than fallen into. "The appointment today," Keanu said. Is it something serious?" Walter looked at him. People did not usually ask that question directly. "Follow up," he said. "They found something on a scan 3 months ago. Could be nothing. Usually is." He paused. "But they want to look again." Keanu nodded. He did not say "I'm sure it's fine" or "you'll be all right" or any of the things people say to close a conversation that has become too real. He just nodded. "Your daughter know?" he said. "She knows about the appointment," Walter said. "Not about the scan." He turned to look at Keanu directly for the first time since they had gotten in. "She has a baby, 7 months. Her husband works nights. She has enough to look at." Keanu held his gaze. "She'd want to know," he said. "Not a statement, not a command, just the true thing," said quietly. Walter looked back out the window. "Yes," he said. "She would." They were quiet again. Outside, the city moved past in its Sunday afternoon configuration, lighter than a weekday, slower. The specific, unhurried pace of a city that is not quite off but is not quite on. "Do you have family here?" Walter asked. "Some," Keanu said. "Is it enough?" Keanu thought about that for a moment. "Most days," he said. Walter nodded. "That's all you can ask," he said. Union Station appeared ahead of them, its Spanish colonial facade warm in the afternoon light, the palm trees on the forecourt standing in the particular Southern California way, slightly too tall, slightly too sparse. Beautiful in a way that takes time to appreciate. The cab pulled to the curb at the Alameda Street entrance. Walter opened his door. Keanu got out on his side and came around and took the rolling suitcase from the trunk before Walter could reach it and set it upright on the sidewalk. Walter put his hand on the handle. He looked at Keanu. "I'm going to call her," he said. "Patricia, about the scan." Keanu said, "Good." "I wasn't going to," Walter said. "Before this." He did not explain what this meant. He did not need to. "I know," Keanu said. Walter extended his hand. Keanu took it. They shook hands the way two men shake hands when something real has passed between them, and neither of them is going to remark on it further. "Take care of yourself," Keanu said. "You too," Walter said. "Whoever you are." He said it with a very slight lift at the corner of his mouth that was the closest thing to a smile Walter Briggs produced in serious moments. and Keanu recognized it for what it was. Walter Briggs walked through the doors of Union Station with his rolling suitcase and his clean shoes and his photographs in his breast pocket. Keanu stood on the sidewalk and watched him go. He called Patricia from the cab on the way back up Alameda. He had asked Walter at the door if he could. Walter had looked at him for a moment, then taken the folded piece of paper from his breast pocket, the one with the clinic address, and written a number on the back of it and handed it over. Patricia Webb answered on the second ring. She had her father's directness and a version of his stillness, and she listened to what Keanu told her, not all of it, the parts that were his to tell, without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for 3 seconds. Then she said, "How long has he been in the city?" 8 months, Keanu said. "He never told me about the scan," she said. It was not a question. No, another silence. "Is he okay right now? Today?" "He's okay," Keanu said. "He's managing. He means it stronger than it sounds." He heard her breath change, the specific breath of someone who recognizes a true thing about a person they love and is relieved and heartbroken by the recognition simultaneously. "Thank you," she said. Just thank you." Keanu said he hoped the appointment went well. He asked her to give her father his best. He hung up. The cab moved back up Alameda toward the freeway. Patricia Webb was at the clinic when her father came out of his appointment. He stopped when he saw her. He looked at her for a long moment, his rolling suitcase in one hand, the folded paper in the other. "How?" he said. "Someone called me," she said. He nodded slowly. He looked at the paper in his hand, the piece with the clinic address and the number written on the back. He folded it carefully and put it back in his pocket. "The scan was fine," he said. "Scar tissue from an old thing. Nothing new." "Patricia said, Dad." He looked at her. She put her arms around him, which was not a thing they did often. Not because they were not close, but because they were both people who carried things privately and expressed love in the specific language of showing up. And Walter Briggs, who had been managing, who had been showing up every morning as an act of will, who had lowered his arm 7 times and raised it again, stood on the sidewalk outside a clinic near Union Station and let his youngest daughter hold him. He was still holding the suitcase. It did not occur to either of them. The scan was, as the doctor said, nothing new. The thing they had found in the first scan was scar tissue from a procedure Walter had had in 1987 and had not thought about in decades. The follow-up confirmed it. He received the clean result while Patricia sat in the waiting room reading a parenting magazine from 2023 and texting her husband the same 3 words every 10 minutes. Still waiting. Oak. Walter took the bus home from Pasadena the following Wednesday with a book he had bought at the station bookstore, a history of the Transcontinental Railroad that he had been meaning to read since 2019, and a takeaway container of Patricia's lamb stew. And he sat in his apartment on Clement Street and ate the stew and started the book and looked out the window at the Los Angeles evening, which was violet and warm and louder than Sacramento had ever been. And he thought about what Evelyn would have said about all of it. She would have said, "I told you so." She had always believed that things worked out. Not naively, she had lived enough to know that they didn't. Not always, not automatically, but with the specific confidence of someone who had watched the math often enough to develop a conviction about it. "Things work out if you let them," she used to say. The problem is most people don't let them. They hold on so tight to how they thought it was going to go that they can't see what it's actually doing. Walter had been married to her for 43 years, and had argued with this theory for 43 years, and had, over those same 43 years, seen enough evidence for it that he had eventually stopped arguing and started keeping a private tally. He added that Sunday to the tally. Patricia called him every evening after that. Not long calls, 10 minutes, 15, what he had eaten, how the book was going, whether he had been out. He answered her honestly, and she listened the way people listen when they are no longer having to guess. She brought the baby to visit on the last Saturday of the month. Walter held his great-granddaughter, 6 months old, substantial, serious-faced, in the specific way that very young babies are serious-faced before they understand smiling, and showed her the photographs in his breast pocket. The baby examined them with the focused attention of someone who is new to the world and finds all of it equally interesting. "She's going to be like you," Patricia said. "How?" Walter said. "Quiet," Patricia said, "but paying attention." Walter looked at his great-granddaughter, who was paying attention. "There are worse things to be," he said. "I've been thinking about what it costs to raise your arm the 8th time. After the first cab passes, it is a minor thing. After the 3rd, it is an effort. After the 5th, it is something that requires a decision you have to make consciously. After the 7th, after the one that stopped and let you walk toward it and then pulled away, raising your arm again is an act of faith so stubborn and so specific that I am not sure I could do it. Walter Briggs raised it anyway. I keep thinking about that, about what it is in a person that keeps them at a curb after 7 refusals. Arm raised, patient, not broken. I think it is the same thing that gets you dressed in the morning after 14 months of managing. The same thing that builds a porch over 3 summers on weekends after your regular job, because you decided it was worth building. There is a kind of dignity that does not require anyone's acknowledgement to exist. Walter had it before the cab stopped. He would have had it if the 8th cab had passed too. The story would have been different, but he would have been the same. What Keanu did, standing at that curb, opening the door, saying after you, was not give Walter dignity. He could not do that. Walter already had it. What he did was witness it. And I think sometimes that is the whole thing, not the rescue, not the solution. Just a person deciding that what is happening in front of them is worth stopping for, worth standing beside, worth a 23-minute drive in the wrong direction on a Sunday afternoon. I think about the curbs I have walked past, the arms I did not see, or saw and did not register, or registered and kept walking anyway. I am not proud of those moments, but I think naming them is the beginning of something. And I think the beginning of something is enough to start. This story is fictional, inspired by Keanu Reeves' well-known reputation for seeing the people in front of him, fully, without agenda, and without walking away. Tell me what you took from this one. The curb, the arm, the 8th try, whatever stayed with you. Drop it in the comments. If someone in your life is managing right now, raising their arm after the 7th refusal, share this with them. They do not need to know why you're sending it. They will know. Subscribe. More stories are coming. See you in the next one.